Frieren Season 2 just wrapped up, but starting this spring has been Witch Hat Atelier, two modern fantasy anime, which have a unique approach to a magic system. Sure, they both use magic as a pretty key part of their worlds, but they have two completely different philosophies to it that spell out two different approaches to storytelling. They're both fantasy, but in a lot of ways, that's where the similarities between the two series ends. In both, the way magic works is instrumental to the world, its characters and themes, but there's some pretty big differences. Like, sure, they agree there should be a white-haired teacher of magic, but should it be a twink or a grandma? That's the question. These are two completely different approaches, and let's talk about them for a minute. Now, in Frieren, the magic system is kind of scientific, but it's also based on visualization. It's about picturing something. It can do small things like saying a tongue twister cleanly, but we see it just as often as the power system behind big battle shonen fights. And in Witch Hat, it's rules-based. It's harder. Clearly defined boundaries, but ones that can be explored in such creatively satisfying ways. These are two tonally opposite philosophies to using magic in the story. Sure, they both have characters who love magic, who have an excitement to learn, plus organizations seeking to control the use of magic, but as systems, they're completely different. One puts the emphasis on everyone having some access to folk magic as a reflection of a person in some way, whereas the other, that has it as a learnable skill in a world where the knowledge of magic is heavily controlled but simple. Both start from the same place though, a magic circle. So something that immediately jumps out about both Frieren and Witch Hat's magic is the circles. This is something that is the case in a ton of different anime and manga, the idea of a circle being the tool for magic. A magic circle is a real thing. I mean, it probably doesn't actually summon a demon or a soul track or anything, but it is part of various magic, spiritual, and even religious ceremonies. Now in Frieren, the magic circles are pure aesthetic. They look cool. I mean, have you seen that projected cosplay one? But they're not that important to the lore. Half the time, they don't even show up when they use spells. It seems to be part of Zoltrak specifically. Now, we see that spell so much that it becomes a bigger part of the series, but it's not universal. Whereas in Witch Hat, the circles are everything. You draw the circles. It has to be physically completed for the magic to even work. The way you draw impacts how the magic is performed. The magic in Witch Hat is something with clearly defined boundaries, and the circle is at the heart of that, but it's also putting the emphasis on the art side of things, on the physical craftsmanship for a skill. Drawing, it's something that exists in the real world. It's making grounded creative output central to how magic works. It's inescapable in this series. It's magic as a science or as an art. The magic system in Frieren has been the source of a lot of debate, especially as the series has wound on, because it's quite fleshed out in some areas, incredibly vague in others. It's this system behind most of the fights, but also gives people the ability to seal away beer for a millennium, folk magic for doing silly little things like summoning flowers. There are two sides to magic here, folk and combat. Frieren's party sticks to basic offensive and defensive spells as a personal method, because over time the magic system has become studied and refined. Frieren, being an immortal, even has been part of that process of helping more people to understand the core principles behind the magic system, the science of it through study of a sensation in the natural world. A sensation that's not fully figured out, like figuring out physics in our world a long time ago. Now, there is folk magic too, but that often seems to be learned from a recipe or instructions that are written out. So as much as some people possess ultra-strong visualization skills in Frieren, the magic system is more science than art. Unless you're her, of course. Even some of the most talented mages have to study to relearn something they forgot. They can't just visualize it happening again. There's some kind of system or process to doing a spell, but we don't learn those details. It's something more than what we see. It's not like Witch Hat. The magic system over here, it's more specific. You don't get the method Both Frieren and Witch Hat use magic as a form of self-expression, but in Witch Hat it's more literal. It's something that's being restricted as a means of controlling people. They're literally drawing things out. The magic system is clearer, there's less ambiguity. Although I suppose in both you have instructions, things you can learn. In both there's even books or grimoires which help with learning magic. But there's much bigger differences in how they're used in the storytelling. I think this vagueness versus specificity can be seen clearly in the tools used to do magic in both. Which in one is wands, yeah, makes sense, wizard stuff, you know. And in the other, it's sometimes staffs, kinda. In Frieren, there's often a staff needed to channel magic, but sometimes it's just done without one. The magic system in Frieren is whatever is needed for the plot in that chapter. Although that's not a bad thing. It actually gives more freedom in how you use the magic system for storytelling. But it is very different to Witch Hat. Well, if we go by what works for that story, it means we can randomly have people show up with completely unique magic and a unique way to interact with the magic system. The only details given are those that are necessary, which means when the story needs to go somewhere else and come up with another new set of spells or way to use magic, it can do so without running into problems. Frieren has economic writing with its magic system. It doesn't lay too much out, so that it doesn't trip itself up in the future. It's all in service of the characters and themes, but that does mean the magic system can be shallower. Whereas Witch Hat's magic system has some very clear rules and guidelines laid out. It's all based on drawing the wands or pens. We know pretty clearly how that works compared to Frieren's staffs. But that doesn't mean other tools to draw don't work. If it draws, it works. You can do it on clothes and hypothetically other things through, although some of that is forbidden, you know. A Witch Hat system is something you could pull out of the series with its characters, and it would still function independently anywhere else. And Frieren's is different. It has a completely different approach to who can even do magic. It has this whole mana system. So in Frieren, this is a resource that's used for casting spells. It's something to quantify the mages. Witch Hat Atelier has this system where everyone is told mages are just special, but it's really something that anyone can do. There's no resource management or internal energy that you need. It's all what you can see. Whereas Frieren has a magic system where everyone can do a lot of it, but some people can build up more mana to make more use of it and do bigger magic stuff, you know? It's an area which is behind Frieren's personal main novelty too, that she hides her mana. It all comes out because that's what the story needs in the aura fight. And then that factor, the mana, it gets pulled back up whenever the mangaka wants to add some extra layer to somebody else. But it isn't an all-governing force we see non-stop. A lot of the time, the magic is actually unrelated to mana. It's just there in the background. It adds layers to the battle elements. But it doesn't limit the folk magic side of things. It's not important for that. Mages can use their mana and magic to use spells which are just literal attacks or defense. Magic beams, really. It could be ki, it could be a laser or some alchemy. It can also just be magic and mana. That's the looseness of Frieren's system at work again. We can have a sniper spell and a little knife spell and hey, look at this spell. And they all fit into the same system. Magic and spells specifically can be a symbolic thing to people or an individual. It can represent a tradition that only really exists in one community, a magic that's essentially a culture that Frieren wants to experience and collect. That doesn't feel as tied to building up your mana level, but it's because Frieren's magic system is looser and wider. It can suit whatever the story needs, but just don't think too much about it sometimes, you know? In Witch Hat, I tell how strong they are, look how far they've come, because look how great their mana is. And no way to just instantly make someone a prodigy, but also no limiter on what completely untrained people can do. An untrained mage in Frieren probably doesn't have the mana built up. And in Witch Hat, I mean, Coco uses Power Girl specifically. This does draw out something which can be difficult with Frieren's magic. The mangaka never gives more detail than is needed for each specific plot point. So we frequently learn new stuff about the magic system, but it never gives us a full idea. How does the visualization thing physically work? It just kind of does. It's thought-based. Picturing yourself doing something is important for casting spells in Frieren's magic system, but it clearly isn't everything. Or why would Frieren need to learn obscure spells from books? Couldn't she just picture them? There's more to the magic system than just visualization, but the exact mechanics of casting, that's not our concern because it doesn't particularly help the story right now. Frieren has its themes and plots and its characters, and the magic system, that's a tool for that. Ubel has strong visualization because that's what's necessary to understand her as a character. It makes the magic feel intuitive, like it's partially an expression of the wielder's raw will. In Witch Hat, it's learned the whole way through. No one is visualizing, therefore it is ing their way through this. It doesn't make exceptions for individual characters. It's a system for magic which is fleshed out and coherent. The themes, the characters, they all fit around that. I think it's comparable to Dungeon Meshi's take on ecosystems. The dungeon ecosystem is this fascinating thing, and it all adds up, and that's why the world building works so much. You could just sit and read a textbook about it, and it would feel real. That's what magic in Witch Hat feels like. There's plenty of detail in there that we don't even need to know, whereas in Frieren, it's more in service of what's actually happening. Witch Hat makes great use of characters experimenting with magic once they learn the basics, in a way that's only really doable because the audience understands that there are hard rules. We see Fern get magic things explained to her, and in flashback she's using this butterfly spell, but we don't see her crafting out, like, actually how to use a spell. Like, how does she see through the clothes of most people she meets? Physically, I don't know. I just know she won't stop doing it. Her training montage is more ethereal and symbolic rather than literal. It's her concentrating, getting in tune with nature. But the actual instruction isn't very technical. Instead, it's done in tandem with showing her grow and age. Her learning magic is just a symbolic element of a wider montage about growth and life, with explanations on magic concepts kept as small as we need to understand what's happening in the action. Whereas in Witch Hat, the learning is kind of important. We see Coco try spells, we see her use some simple logic to try and reason out how to make one. If her slightly longer symbol on a basic spell worked once, then how well does a much longer one work? That's how she gets the flower, and eventually in the anime passes the test. Frieren's magic system couldn't be used in this way. It has a different role in the story. In Witch Hat, we can logically run through how you'd experiment with this system in real life, as if it's something that actually exists. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong with Frieren's approach. I really like how the magic system is handled in there, and there's always room for more exploration with the way that story is written. But when comparing the two, Frieren and Witch Hat's magic systems, the difference is striking. Ultimately, a big question posed by Witch Hat is about the idea of control. It's kind of much bigger than the magic system alone, but I do want to just touch on it a little bit here because both series have this to a point. Witch Hat Atelier has this whole society where a small group has a monopoly on magic. They hold the knowledge behind pulling it off. They control the spread of that information. To some degree, to a ruthless extent. Erasing memories if their secret gets out. It's about control, not just of this exact knowledge of what to draw. It's about control of people through a concept. And this is somewhere where we can actually make a direct comparison with Frieren, because one magic association in Frieren boasts such power that they can bar people from entering regions without one of their mages there, like a Snorlax to the whole population. They have access to a library of just about any spell. They control who get those obscure spells. They patrol northern regions, and you can just ignore them and do magic anyway. It just does not matter. It's just a little club. Come, go chill in the southern lands for a few decades. See how they like that. Grimoires are everywhere. Every village has access to some unique spell to give away. Why would you knuckle down and be a first-class mage, an apprentice to this lady, when you could just clean up some pumpkins or something and get a cool spell too? Frieren doesn't collect them because she wants control over that knowledge, but just because silly spells are fun. It's just barter. That's how common this kind of magic is in Frieren. In Witch Hat, the random person doing a bit of magic merely gets their mind erased and they kind of mess up a family member. Even when they don't erase her memories, they have to go through an incredibly dangerous trial before they're even allowed to start learning what exactly it was they did. Magic can be dangerous in the wrong hands. I mean, look at what happened. But there is absolute control over the knowledge. It's used as a tool to retain power to a select in-group. Whereas in Frieren, no one has a monopoly over something like this. Some people are rich in the currency of spells. Yeah, some people are more skilled, but the magic system at its core of this fantasy series isn't an exclusionary one. Because that wouldn't really serve the story or the characters. In a world of exclusionary magic, the mage of the heroes party would probably be more of a jerk than Frieren is. They're doing very different approaches to magic. In one, the control over that knowledge is at the core of the whole system. It's a major theme. And in the other, the control is incredibly loose because the story isn't really about the technicalities of performing a spell. It's still not 100% clear how most magic is even done beyond this. It's just they know how. I mean, physically, what do they do? What happens? It's not about that. It's about what the spell means. The magic systems in both series are built for their core themes. In Frieren, the journey is over, the Demon King is dead, she's rediscovering herself through travel. The magic system is a driving part of that exploration, yeah. But while it's complex enough that Fern has to travel with her, it is also simple enough that she doesn't actually have to do many lessons. It's wide enough to put the emphasis on connection, on folk magic, and getting little things as a reward. It's because the journey is the lens we see character through in Frieren. Whereas the Witch Hat Atelier world is different. It's less open, less free, less optimistic. The magic system in Frieren is a means to an end. Each element that is introduced is done to serve a purpose, whereas I think the magic system in Witch Hat is more of a substantial system. Each element is introduced, then we do something with it. It feels like it could exist on its own. It's a set of rules to play with. You can parachute it into a different set of characters, and it would still work. Witch Hat's world building goes further than Frieren's. Well, a lot of Frieren's stuff is just there to serve a specific plot point. It's more of a character focused series, and I do enjoy that, but Witch Hat brings a breathing ecosystem to its magic. It's pure expression. There are certain spells which are hoarded and some which are more commonly known, but in Frieren, the universal availability of magic is a big thing. Plus there's people like Shark who can fight dragons and Himmel who can save civilizations, and all without using magic. It just happens to be how two of our main characters fight. In fact, a lot of people who use magic in Frieren, it's obfuscated from magic anyway, using all sorts of physical objects to manipulate instead. It makes for a fascinating approach to shonen-style fights, but it isn't the most reliant on the magic system being magical. Frieren turns magic into something that suits its own themes. It's a tool which can be used to serve a purpose for storytelling. Whereas in Witch Hat, it kind of feels like a system that could exist, something that goes beyond what the story needs and is its own thing. I like both, but in comparing, I think it's interesting how two series can have a magic system so central and actually have so little in common outside of being absolute peak anime. Hey, thanks for watching. We can come through let me know if you want to see more on Witch Hat, because I'm really enjoying the first season so far. Alright, cheers.